Hi everyone, welcome. We're out here in my garden preparing to check in on my outdoor worm bag version 6.0, launched 15 days ago. It's been over 2 weeks since we started up this system, and the way we started up this system over here was by going to my so-called compost barrel, which is not really even a barrel, it's just a trash pail that I call a barrel. and it's where I do all my everyday outdoor composting. Every time I pick weeds, they go in here. Every time I trim my garden or do pruning, everything goes in here. So this is just an amazing system because the level never seems to rise. I might top it off with stuff, but then in pretty short order the level drops down. And what I wanted to do today, the reason I'm including both here in the intro, is because normally we would only come in here to feed, and that's kind of the lesser of the things that I want to take care of today, because the system was launched 15 days ago with a great deal of food built in already, even before the worms that we recruited to go in there were introduced. So I plan on giving them a little bit of food, but I really want to add some bedding. But the other thing that I'd really like to do is to return into here to implement an idea that one of the viewers provided, an idea that I can't really take credit for, but it's such a terrific idea that I wanted to give it a go. And if you're a regular here on my channel, you might know what I've used these for in the past. These I'm going to set up as little bait boxes with which we can hopefully round up a good many more worms to increase the population that lives in our outdoor worm bag version 6.0. So I came with a bit more food here than is really needed to feed the outdoor worm bag, because we're also building bait boxes, and I've got some leaves with which to set these things up. So I'm going to put on a glove and we're going to get to work. So over here in the compost barrel, I explained this crazy thing last time we were in here 15 days ago. This is just a little wreath that I created when I tore down portions of a wisteria plant that I've got growing, and I thought it looked kind of cool, so I've left it in here as decoration. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm in the middle of defrosting a refrigerator, and this was just a big hunk of ice that came out of that process. And I figured, hey, why not give it to these little guys? It's a very warm day, and it seemed like giving these guys a little break from the warmth might be a good idea. So really quick, the other thing that I wanted to do besides set these bait boxes up with the materials that you saw earlier, which was cantaloupe, cucumber peels, and coffee, is to thoroughly dampen each of these. So this isn't going to include a lot of chit-chat or fanfare, because it's fairly straightforward. It's just a matter of installing these bait boxes. And I do have a fairly high degree of confidence that this should work. And this is pretty neat too. I mean, when we came in here to round up worms last time, it does seem like our tilling up of the material over here has resulted in some nice loose stuff that the worms are able to move through pretty easily. And it does seem like they've come out in fairly good numbers to feast on the yummy foods that are down here. I typically just drop new things right into the middle so that they're underneath that top covering of plastic, which is meant to help moisture recirculate down here in the compost barrel. So I usually expect that I'm going to find the greatest number of worms hanging out near the center of the system. But you know how worms are. They just kind of got minds of their own and they go wherever they please. So usually what I'm expecting is sort of kind of an educated guess, but often wrong. So this is the depth that I think we should be able to be okay with. And since there's no openings here, I figured I would butt these two up right next to each other, because it doesn't seem to matter if there's access from here or not. I figured if I were to just position them like so, then all of the openings on these two sides would both be easily accessible by any passerby worms that might catch a little whiff of the delicious cantaloupe and delicious cucumber peel and coffee that we placed in here for them. And I didn't want to cover the whole thing up. I really just wanted to backfill the access holes through which the worms can enter and cover the whole thing up. So not a whole lot to be done here. I'm even thinking that that block of ice, once we whoa, okay, go slower maybe. Once we're ready to restore things here, I can just put that block of ice right on top too, and that'll continue to slowly provide moisture down into these little bait boxes, further sweetening the deal and hopefully helping us achieve success. So I just broke my little ice supply, which is actually a good thing because now I can stack it up. And maybe we'll just backfill it a little further so the ice doesn't start to slide away as it begins to thaw. And that was really all I wanted to do. And really quickly, a shout out to the viewer. I don't recall their name or who it was, but that was an excellent idea. And as usual, I'm always all for following through on good ideas. So let me get this thing covered up. We're going to go over there and we're going to feed the 15-day-old outdoor worm bag version 6 next. Alright, I'm not sure if it's coming through on the camera, but there is a little bit more background noise than there was earlier because the neighbors have once again started operating their power washer, washing their porch, washing their lawn furniture, washing their patio furniture, and whatever else, maybe their fence, I don't know. But this shouldn't be too big of a check-in. I am curious though, because you know, as I normally do or don't do, I don't come into my bins to see how they're doing. Usually the check-ins that I do with you guys on camera are the first time I'm seeing how things are since the last time it was captured on video. The only thing that I did do in here, since it's been pretty warm and since it is a brand new bin, 15 days old at this point, I did worry about moisture. So I did come in, take off the plywood top covering and douse the system with my trusty garden hose, which I've got here again just in case we need it. But other than that, I didn't really do much to see how they're doing on the last feeding. I was super generous in building this system with a fairly plentiful quantity of food, so I did imagine that when we came back in here we'd probably find that they probably had a good amount of the food that we gave them remaining. And some of it we're already starting to bump into here. This was the stalk of a Brussels sprout plant, which the inside appears to have been chewed out. The inside of one of these things is kind of like a gooey sort of gel type material, and I can imagine that the worms would probably really see that as a awesome thing to feast on. Just kind of slurp the stuff up and keep on moving. So I don't know if we have to go too crazy identifying all the leftovers, but it's more about gauging the amount of it, not so much identifying the substances themselves. I did start to receive some feedback from the viewers on the number of worms that we succeeded in recruiting for the initial launch of this system 15 days ago. And I've been starting to calculate what we believe the estimated worm population of this system to be. And I think it was pretty much agreed by the viewers that getting more worms for this system would probably be a good idea, and that's part of the reason I wanted to follow through on that bait box idea. I mean, one way or another, we were going to try to go through some sort of a recruiting mission to get more worms for this system. But I really did like that idea that viewer provided, and I'm so glad that we're actually following through on it now. So I'm going to return these leftovers, of which I found very few, surprisingly. And I probably did bump into bits and pieces of leftovers, like this looks like some cantaloupe rind, and there was some other gooey little bits that came out as I was excavating. So we probably did breeze right past some of the food items that were put in here last time. without really identifying them or even acknowledging that we'd encountered them. But that's okay. I am glad to see that they've done a pretty good job on doing away with most of what they were given, and which I was skeptical of. I didn't think that they really would. And so here's some of the cantaloupe, which has not been frozen. It's just been sitting around at room temperature, which is the same as the cucumber peels here. Some of this stuff, like these cucumber peels, I just came back from a couple days of camping up in the Catskill Mountains up in New York State with the Boy Scouts, helping out over there in the kitchen and with other things, and that gave me direct access to some of the foods that we were preparing for them. So I rounded up a whole bunch of cucumber peels, thinking it would be a shame to trash it. I figured I would just bring it home and use it as worm food, but the stuff has been sitting around for a couple days without being refrigerated, and it was starting to get pretty nasty. So well, you know, I was about to grab my hose and start rinsing off my glove, but before we do that, I think we're going to backfill the feeding area. And it does almost seem to me like adding moisture would be unnecessary. I suppose that nice dousing I gave them last time did dampen the contents of this system considerably. My only thinking was that since, you know, some of the stuff that I wanted to sprinkle on here as sort of a top dressing, all these dry leaves might benefit from a little extra shot of moisture. But it almost seems unnecessary at this point. So, you know what? I'm going to leave it as is. That covering that we've got for this system, the decorative plywood, definitely keeps the moisture in. And you know what? I'm going to reverse what I said a moment ago, because it does seem like using the hose to quickly rinse off my glove and return some of the stuff that has adhered to it back down into the system makes a lot more sense than just rinsing it off into the yard. And that's that. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the bait box that we just put into the compost barrel. See if we can get some more recruits to increase the numbers. And before we part ways here, I would like to invite everyone to checking out the video from last time. I'm going to put a link up in the corner to the video where we gathered the worms with which we populated this system, because I'd love for people to watch that and provide me with their input on how many worms they think are in here. Because before we go ahead and add worms, it'll be nice to settle on some sort of a starting population count in here. And as most of you know, I always do that by averaging everyone's input and estimates. And that's how we come up with my worm bin population estimates. So that's it for the video, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully that background noise with the power washer isn't too disturbing. But that's that for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.